a world where extinct species once again roam the earth. This is not just the plot of a science fiction novel, but a reality that is gradually becoming achievable thanks to modern technology. Dear viewers, imagine waking up in the morning, opening the window, and on the horizon, you see the giant silhouettes of animals known to us only from old illustrations and stories of the past. In this new world, nature comes alive again. Ancient inhabitants, who lost their place in history, return to once again occupy their ecological niches. These creatures, from majestic mammoths to tiny passenger pigeons that once lived in dense forests, they have the ability to change the familiar appearance of the environment. Each of these animals had its important role, whether it was regulating the climate, renewing the vegetation, or maintaining balance in the ecosystem. Their disappearance was not a coincidence, but the result of a complex interaction of climate changes, human activity, and the loss of natural habitats. I often wonder, what if we had the opportunity to bring these species back? Imagine ancient mammoths with their enormous tusks and thick fur once again, stomping across snowy plains, helping to preserve the permafrost and slow down global warming. Or how passenger pigeons, once filling the skies of North America, once again illuminate the air with their flight, reminding us of a time when nature was boundless. Modern technologies, such as gene editing with CRISPR, cloning, and the method of backbreeding, give scientists a chance to achieve the impossible. To erase the boundary between the past and the present. However, along with great potential come complex questions of ethics, ecology, and safety. Could the revival of extinct species become a salvation for depleting ecosystems? Or will this intervention in nature bring unpredictable consequences? I urge you to consider whether you are ready to embrace a world where every morning begins with the chance to witness living history. Where technology and nature merge into one, giving us the opportunity to correct the mistakes of the past and restore the lost wealth of life on Earth. We stand on the threshold of a new era, where scientific achievements promise to bring back to life images long gone from our world. And each such attempt is a challenge to ourselves and to nature. Mammoths, the resurrection of icy giants. They are the embodiment of an era when the land was covered with endless cold steppes. Dear viewers, imagine how these gigantic animals, which appeared about 800,000 years ago, gracefully stride across the expanses where eternal frost once reigned. Their powerful bodies, covered with thick fur, allowed them to survive in the harsh conditions of the northern regions of Eurasia and North America, where cold and snow were an integral part of life. However, about 4,000 years ago, on the remote Wrangel Island, the last mammoth took its final step, succumbing to climate change and relentless hunting by humans. Today, scientists are not just dreaming of bringing back these ancient titans, they are working on it. Tirelessly. Using gene editing technology, researchers are taking DNA samples from Asian elephants, the closest living relatives of mammoths, and inserting genes responsible for thick fur, a thick layer of subcutaneous fat, and adaptation to cold climates. Imagine that in the coming years, we might be able to see hybrid animals that combine the traits of modern elephants and ancient mammoths, capable of restoring lost ecosystem functions. These animals could trample snowy plains, breaking through the thick layer of snow, allowing cold air to penetrate deeper into the ground and maintain the state of permafrost. In this way, slowing down the processes of global warming. This project is not without its challenges. Every DNA molecule is a unique repository of information, and the slightest difference can lead to the emergence of an entirely new species. But isn't it amazing that science is capable of overcoming the boundaries of the possible? After all, mammoths, once rulers of the Earth's expanses, were not just animals. They were key participants in the ecosystem, whose activities contributed to the renewal of vegetation and the regulation of the climate. The return of these icy giants could become not only a triumph of scientific progress, but also an important step in combating climate change, offering hope for the restoration of the lost natural balance. Can you believe that soon the past will once again become part of our present? And the ancients? Will mastodons trample the snow as they once did? The dodo bird. A bird that became a symbol of loss and at the same time a source of hope for the revival of extinct species. These flightless creatures inhabited the island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean and were known for their unusual appearance. A large body, disproportionately small wings, and a massive beak that helped them forage in the dense tropical forests. The dodos lived in conditions where natural predators were absent, and evolution granted them a peaceful existence surrounded by an abundance of fruit trees and shrubs. However, their fate drastically changed with the arrival of humans. With the arrival of European settlers, hunting these birds led to a rapid decline in their population, and the introduction of non-native animals like dogs and rats resulted in the destruction of nests and the annihilation of eggs. The last representative of this species, according to records, disappeared at the end of the 17th century, around 1690. Today, scientists are working on a project aimed at recreating a functional analog of the dodo. Using genetic editing methods, specialists are taking genetic material from the dodo's closest relative, the Nicobar pigeon. This approach is based on comparative DNA analysis, which allows for the identification of lost traits of the extinct bird and their recreation in a living organism. Technologies such as CRISPR allow for the necessary changes to be made to the pigeon's genome to achieve a phenotype as close as possible to the original dodo species. In the course of their research, scientists analyze morphological features, lifestyle, and ecological role of the dodo, so that the resurrected creature can adapt to modern conditions. Mauritius. Such an approach not only opens up opportunities for preserving cultural heritage, but can also provide valuable lessons for future ecology and biodiversity conservation. The project to resurrect the dodo is accompanied by detailed research, laboratory experiments, and analysis of ancient DNA samples preserved in museum collections. The results of these studies allow scientists to reconstruct the evolutionary history of the species, understand the reasons for its extinction, and develop a strategy for its recreation. This multifaceted process requires the collaboration of specialists from various fields, including geneticists, paleobiologists, ecologists, and even experts in restoring lost ecosystems. Tasmanian tiger. The marsupial predator, once inhabiting the vast forests and savannas of Australia and Tasmania, represents one of the most tragic examples of the extinction of unique species. These animals had characteristics typical of marsupials: a compact body, powerful limbs, and a unique appearance that combined features of a predator and an animal, with a developed social structure. Historical records indicate that the Tasmanian tiger was widespread over a vast area, but its presence on the mainland ended long before the arrival of Europeans. The last known specimen died in a zoo in the city of Hobart in 1936. The main reasons for the extinction of this species were climate changes that drastically affected the ecosystem, as well as active hunting and persecution by colonizers. This led to a sharp decline in the population. The Tasmanian tiger was not only an important link in the food chain but also played a significant role in maintaining the balance of natural communities by regulating the numbers of small mammals and birds. With the disappearance of this unique predator, the ecological balance was disrupted, which had a long-term impact on the biodiversity of the regions where it once lived. Modern scientists are not indifferent to this loss and are applying innovative technologies to restore the species. By using stem cell techniques, specialists aim to utilize genetic material obtained from closely related marsupials to create genetically modified embryos that are as close as possible in characteristics to the original Tasmanian tiger. This process involves the extraction, cultivation, and subsequent reconstruction of cells, which requires high precision and deep knowledge in genetics and molecular biology. In addition to genetic editing, research is being conducted to study the behavior and ecological role of the Tasmanian tiger, so that the recreated species can successfully integrate into the modern habitat. To date, scientists are conducting laboratory experiments aimed at overcoming numerous technical and ethical barriers associated with the resurrection of extinct species. These efforts require significant resources, time, and international cooperation, but the research results offer hope that it may one day be possible to bring back to life one of the most enigmatic representatives of Australian fauna. The restoration of the Tasmanian tiger will not only allow for the recovery of a lost element of the ecosystem, but also serve as an important milestone in the development of technologies for preserving biological diversity. The passenger pigeon. A legend of the skies, a lost grandeur that once symbolized the vast expanses of North America. This species, known by the scientific name Ectopists migratorius, once inhabited dense forests, and their population reached billions of individuals. The passenger pigeon was unique not only in its numbers but also in its significance to the ecosystem. These birds played an important role in seed dispersal and maintaining plant diversity, participating in the cycle of forest cover renewal. Their rapid reproduction rate and ability for long-distance migrations made them one of the key components of the natural balance, allowing forests to renew and develop. However, With the onset of industrial hunting and the sharp reduction of forest areas caused by the expansion of human activities, the population of the passenger pigeon began to decline rapidly. Mass hunting, as well as the destruction of their natural habitat, led to the species being on the brink of extinction by the early 20th century. The last passenger pigeon died in a zoo in Cincinnati in 2019, becoming a symbol of the ruthless human interference with nature. The extinction of this species became a vivid example of how in just a few decades, one can erase from the face of the earth an entire legend that once filled the sky with life and sounds. Modern scientists, realizing the scale of the loss, are not indifferent to the possibility of bringing this species back to life. The organization Revive and Restore has launched an ambitious project to restore the passenger pigeon. Using DNA extracted from museum specimens that have been preserved under special conditions for decades. By applying advanced genetic editing technologies, researchers are working to introduce the necessary changes into the genome of its closest relative, the band-tailed pigeon. The goal of the project is to create a living organism that closely resembles the original passenger pigeon in morphology, behavior, and ecological role. This process involves a detailed study of genetic sequences, morphological features, and historical data, which allows for the restoration of the lost traits of the species. The restoration of the passenger pigeon could be an important step in regaining the lost natural balance, demonstrating that even extinct species can find their place in nature again. Quagga, a subspecies of the plains zebra, whose history embodies not only the tragedy of loss but also the hope for the revival of lost diversity. The quagga, known scientifically as Equus quagga quagga, once roamed freely across the vast savannas of South Africa, where its graceful movements and distinctive striped coloring made it an integral part of the local fauna. These animals played an important role in maintaining ecosystems, contributing to the natural renewal of pastures and the regulation of vegetation. Their presence influenced the distribution of water and land resources, creating conditions for the existence of other species. For many centuries, the quagga was a symbol of wildlife, embodying the idea of harmony and the beauty of nature. Unfortunately, intensive hunting for their valuable hides and meat, as well as the destruction of natural pastures, led to a sharp decline in the population of this unique subspecies. Zebras. The last quagga died in the Amsterdam Zoo in the 1880s. Thirdly, which became the final blow for the species. The disappearance of the quagga not only impoverished the biological diversity of the region but also disrupted the delicate balance of ecosystems where these animals played. The role of natural regulators. The loss of the quagga left a noticeable mark in the history of conservation, becoming a vivid reminder of how human activity can irreversibly alter the course of evolution. Modern scientists have not lost hope of restoring this species and have launched a project known as the Quagga Project. This project is based on the method of reverse breeding, which involves the selection of modern plains zebras, with the aim of identifying individuals that possess traits most similar to the quagga. This complex and lengthy process involves multi-generational selection, careful analysis of genetic markers, and the study of morphological characteristics, which allows for the gradual restoration of the lost traits of the extinct species. Researchers study historical documents, preserve drawings, and other artifacts to recreate the exact appearance of the quagga and restore its behavior in the natural environment. The project requires significant time and financial investments, as well as close international cooperation among specialists in genetics, ecology, and biology. The revival of the quagga could be an important step in restoring the natural balance and an example of how modern technologies can bring back elements of lost biodiversity, opening up new prospects for nature conservation. What? A giant of ancient pastures left an indelible mark on the history of nature. This powerful wild animal, known scientifically as Bos primigenius, once roamed the vast forests and open plains of Europe, Asia, and North Africa. The aurochs was the ancestor of modern domestic cattle and represented a symbol of primal strength, capable of maintaining the balance of the ecosystem. Its massive build, impressive horns, and endurance allowed it to graze on wild meadows, contributing to the natural renewal of the vegetation cover. Such animals played the role of megagrazers. They not only regulated grass growth, preventing forests from overgrowing, but also facilitated seed dispersal, altering soil structure and the water balance in the regions they inhabited. In recent years, climate change, intensive hunting, and the expansion of agricultural lands have led to the extinction of the aurochs. The last wild representative of this species was recorded in Poland in 1627. The death of the aurochs became a symbol of the loss of natural wealth and served as a catalyst for many ecological initiatives aimed at restoring lost ecosystems. Today, scientists around the world are working on an ambitious project to resurrect the aurochs. The Taurus program uses advanced genomic editing techniques combined with multi-generational breeding to bring back the distinctive traits of this majestic animal into the modern population of domestic cattle. Researchers are meticulously analyzing fragments of ancient aurochs' DNA. By comparing them with the genome of its closest living relatives, they aim to gradually restore the lost traits, from massive horns and a robust skeleton to behavioral characteristics, such as aggressive territorial behavior and the ability to migrate long distances across pastures. The plan to restore the aurochs involves not only bringing back a symbol of ancient pastures but also potentially improving the natural balance in regions where the disappearance of this species has disrupted ecosystems. The ivory-billed woodpecker. A singer of ancient pine forests, whose disappearance has become one of the striking examples of the loss of unique ecosystems. This striking bird, scientifically named Campephalus principalis, once inhabited the oldest pine forests of the southern United States. With its distinctive appearance, vibrant plumage, expressive beak, and loud penetrating call, the ivory-billed woodpecker played an important role in maintaining the balance of the forest ecosystem. These birds help control insect populations. They participated in seed dispersal and contributed to the natural renewal of the forest cover, influencing the diversity of the region's flora and fauna. Over time, intensive deforestation, climate change, and the loss of natural habitat led to a sharp decline in the ivory-billed woodpecker population. The last observations of this species date back to the mid-20th century, and today the species is officially considered extinct. The disappearance of the ivory-billed woodpecker became not only a loss for biodiversity, but also a symbol of the relentless consequences of human activity, which destroys even the most unique and vital ecosystems. In the face of the rapid disappearance of rare species, modern scientists are not sitting idly by. The company Colossal Biosciences has spearheaded a project to restore the ivory-billed woodpecker using genetic editing methods. Specialists are conducting a thorough analysis of preserved museum DNA samples. They are attempting to restore lost genetic traits and recreate a phenotype as close as possible to the original species. This process includes sequential genome sequencing, comparative analysis with closely related species, and the introduction of key genetic markers using CRISPR technology. The obtained data allow not only to recreate the bird's appearance but also to restore its biological functions, such as the ability to adapt in old-growth pine forests, specific migratory habits, and unique feeding behavior. The revival of the ivory-billed woodpecker could become an important step in restoring ecosystems where there once was a harmonious balance between plant and animal life. Despite the technical challenges, the efforts of scientists to restore the ivory-billed woodpecker symbolize humanity's aspiration, not only to correct the mistakes of the past, but also to ensure a future where natural wealth is valued and preserved. The Pyrenean ibex. A revival experiment bordering on a miracle. In early 2003, scientists attempted to clone the Pyrenean ibex, a species known as the Capra pyrenaica, which disappeared due to excessive hunting and habitat destruction. The last individual of this species died in 2000, and scientists managed to preserve its genetic material in the form of frozen tissue samples. The experiment used the technique of nuclear transfer. The genetic information contained in the cell of the frozen ibex was extracted and implanted into the egg cell of a domestic goat, from which the nucleus had been previously removed. In this way, they hoped to create a genetically identical copy of the extinct species that could develop into a full-fledged organism, with the characteristic morphological and physiological traits of the Pyrenean ibex. Despite all efforts, the first clone born during the experiment lived for only 7 minutes. The cause of such a short life was severe lung defects, which indicated the complexity of working with ancient DNA and the incompatibility of some cellular mechanisms between the donor and recipient cells. This result emphasized that even with modern technologies, cloning, and genome sequencing, science faces fundamental limitations. In the restoration of lost species, problems related to the degradation of genetic material, lack of genetic diversity, and adaptation to modern environmental conditions remain some of the main barriers to the successful resurrection of the Pyrenean ibex. Nevertheless, the results of this experiment became an important starting point for further research in the field of the extinction. They demonstrated that the use of frozen samples and nuclear transfer technology can yield real, albeit temporary, results. Scientists continue to work on improving cloning methods, optimizing nuclear transfer protocols, and finding ways to compensate for lost genetic diversity, so that in the future it will be possible not just to create an individual clone, but to ensure the viability and reproducibility of a population. Partial brain restoration. Pigs. Another experiment. It allows for a deeper understanding of the mechanisms of neural network functioning and assesses the limits of cell viability after clinical death. In early 2019, researchers from Yale University conducted a unique trial aimed at restoring some brain functions. Pigs several hours after circulation had stopped. For this purpose, an innovative fluid was developed that mimics the composition of blood, enriched with oxygen and nutrients, capable of penetrating the brain's finest vessels and sustaining life. Neurons. During the experiment, the pig's brain was carefully extracted and placed in a special device through which the fluid was perfused, simulating natural blood flow. Thanks to this procedure, it was possible to partially restore the structure of neural connections, indicating that brain cells are capable of regeneration even after a prolonged period without blood supply. Although the experiment did not lead to the revival of consciousness or full brain functionality, the results showed that some areas of the neural network are capable of being revived under the necessary conditions. This discovery became an important step in understanding how to slow down or even reverse the processes of cell death that occur after clinical death. The method developed by scientists involves the use of a specially formulated fluid containing not only oxygen and nutrients but also cell membrane stabilizers, which helps minimize damage at the cellular level. Experimental data show that even 4 hours after cardiac arrest, it is possible to restore some neuronal functions, which was previously considered impossible. These results open up prospects for further research in the field of neurology, the treatment of strokes, and other pathological conditions related to insufficient blood supplied to the brain. This experiment not only expands our understanding of the biological boundaries between life and death, but also raises important questions about the potential for organ recovery after they have been shut down. Although the complete revival of consciousness remains an unattainable goal for now, successes in the partial restoration of brain functions demonstrate just how fine the line is between life and cellular death. The results of this study could serve as a foundation for developing new methods of medical resuscitation and therapy that can significantly improve outcomes in cardiovascular and neurological pathologies.